Hello, this is Dr. Dilip Amin from InterfaithShaadi. I have guided some 1,200 youths in interfaith love relationships over last 18 years and have summarized in several of the books. Now, last two episodes, there was one Jewish Hindu marriage where they were fighting fiercely in court for their child custody, whether the child should have more time for bar mitzvah or for meditation. And there was another case where Hindu girl was full to convert to Islam when she was 8 months pregnant. So those were sad stories, but that I don't want people to run away with an impression that interfaith marriages have problem. Today we have an interesting couple, and from their face, it looks like they looks like a happy couple. So let me introduce my guests here. Phoebe Shin Venkat, she's a Christian, and Sean Venkat, a Hindu. So to start with, maybe I can ask Phoebe, can you summarize everything what you're going to tell today, maybe just in 1 minute, so viewers know what to expect out of this thing? Phoebe?
Sure. I mean, from my background being Christian, but I'm also open-minded to learn because I realize whatever kind of faith you have, however you worship or don't worship, we all have commonalities that are centered around family, centered around learning, centered around safety and belonging. So that's why I think things work in our interfaith marriage is because being open-minded and not so, stuck in certain ways.
Yeah. Not to be dogmatic, but be
Be
practical
open.
and realistic.
Yeah.
Kind of one. Good point. Yeah. And maybe Sean, I can start with you. So if you can summarize everything in maybe 3, 5 minutes from your childhood till today, no, till you met Phoebe, and focus on more on religious related, how things dynamic change in your life.
Yeah. So I grew up, Hindu,
Mhm.
in the home. Mom and dad are, practicing Hindus. Went to, temple, weekly pujas at the house, many different ceremonies. So I'm South Indian, so we even do more pujas, right? So I have the thread ceremony, all these different ceremonies. We've done those. We had a traditional, when I met Phoebe, I wouldn't say I was actively practicing, but, I was aware and I would go to pujas, I would do things. So we actually had a Indian engagement ceremony. We also had the Indian marriage as well. So I exposed her a lot more to temples and how those operate and with those different functions there. And then I exposed her to a lot of the pujas that happen at family members' homes. So got her acquainted to a lot of those type of activities, and she was very open to learning more and understanding why, and seeing that it brings the families together, it brings friends together in these occasions. So she always saw the positive aspect of those things.
Good, great. So what did you learn about from your parents, families, about interfaith marriages? Were they expecting you to marry by classical arranged marriages, or at least dreaming of at a time?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my mom probably thought arranged. My father, he's very modern. He traveled a lot. He always was like, I'm gonna do whatever he's gonna do anyway. So he never put any expectations on me. But he said you have to expose yourself to a lot of different things before you, want to settle down.
I see. And what did you learn about Christianity? Maybe briefly, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I would go to church with friends every once in a while for
Mhm.
specific functions. So I'm aware of it. And then, you learn a lot from TV and movies. You would get exposed to it in that way. So there's a lot more exposure in media that way. So yeah, that's kind of like my exposure there.
I guess TV exposure meaning good and bad.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. And Phoebe, how about you from your childhood till your background and till you met Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm raised Christian, but again, we weren't so dogmatic. It was more that we have a place, whether it's, you know, in an actual church or a place, meaning any kind of community gathering where you're worshiping, you're thinking about what you do every day, how it benefits others, how you help others. So that was the kind of Christianity I was exposed to. That was more about finding ways to help and help others fit in. And growing up in New Jersey, I was born and raised in New Jersey. It's so diverse there and so inclusive in many ways. So I was exposed to many different cultures, religions, faiths. So, you know, when I had met Sean, I already had many, many Indian friends, had
Mm.
gone to school in Boston, which it's almost like Little India, right? Boston University. So I think the only thing I wasn't as exposed to was South Indian style of worshiping and specific pujas and ceremonies that are specific to Tamilian culture. So that's what I got more exposed to, and I really embrace it. You know, I was actually the one that pushed for us to have that Indian ceremony in addition to the more, you know, secular ceremony,
Uh-huh.
because I think it's important because we're also both only children.
Mm.
So for the elders on both of our families, you know, this is a lot of their dream as well. Obviously, we're the ones getting married, but the families also need to feel like they're part of it and they're, you know, they're included.
Hmm. So uh was there any resistance from your family when you decide to go proceed further with Sean?
No, I didn't have any pushback from my family just because I grew up in such a diverse environment. You know, all my friends, everything I was exposed to was just so different. So in that way, I was raised by my mom. My mom is Hannah is very open-minded. I would say a lot more than people you would think. You know, a
Mm.
Chinese woman immigrating to the U.S. She actually exposed herself a lot to different cultures because she didn't have a choice too. It's not just that she's outgoing. She came here, worked in a factory, worked at the US Postal
Oh,
Service. You don't choose, you're not working amongst people exactly like you. You're working with people wildly different from you, speaking different languages, eating different food. So you're either going to learn about it and embrace it, or you're going to be very lonely
yeah.
and dejected, right? So that is what she exposed to me. So it's always been very normal for me. It's in my DNA to really
Yes.
embrace other cultures. I'm still like this today, right? So yes, I go to church, but that doesn't define me as a person, nor do I think it defines others, whether they go to church, temple, or otherwise.
And what denomination of church you belongs to?
It's for the most part non-denominational. We're Episcopalian, but the
Mm.
church I go to is really, really open-minded. It's within Foster City where we live, and they are really embracing not only of all different religions, but also they have a really keen lens into what's going on in the world,
Mm.
right? Oppressed people, you know, those that are doing with much less than we are. So that's really ties me in, and for me, that works great because I want to feel like I'm not just going to church and escaping for an hour. I'm going to church to also learn about the broader world.
Yeah. See, that's a beauty of religion that it does bring something to your life.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it has its own baggages. And so, as an individual, I guess you have to make a decision what you want to pick and what you want to keep it off.
Yeah, that's true.
And Phoebe, how did you meet each other?
We actually used to work together. We were
Hmm.
both working for a company called Johnson and Johnson, and as temporary, I think we were both in between, you know, full-time jobs. We were both contracting there. We became really close friends. A lot of us in that group of people, it was all like younger people working. We worked together at the job and then hang out afterwards. So we knew each other for several years before we actually started dating.
I see. And Sean, when you propose her, did you thought that, oh no, she's a Christian or she's a Chinese or what I will tell my parents? How did that work out?
Never cared. I didn't think about it really, honestly, because I knew we clicked and we it was going to work for us. And I knew her family was very supportive. You know, I would say my family was supportive too. I think for them, it's just different, right? Like, there's not that many. there's one other cousin, I think, that, Shobha, that has not married an Indian person, right? So I think that was the bigger thing versus anything. But when you learn more about Indian Chinese, the family unit, all those things are very, very similar, right? So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't, it's not a string. It's just, okay, you practice this religion or not, but the core values of who you are and how you work with your family and treat your family is the same. So,
No, but at the same token, yes, youth thinks this way. People coming from other country, China or India, parents
yeah.
have their own mindset. So I'm sure there are some conflicts, some hot discussions on the dinner table. How did you manage that through?
For me, I wouldn't say it was hard discussion. I think it was more exposing more than anything. I think they're just not aware. So my dad was aware. He worked in many jobs, so he was exposed to a lot of different kinds of people. My mom too. She worked at a bank, but her core friends were South Indian women from Chennai. So
Uh-huh.
it's a very, uh, very narrow scope of the world sometimes.
Uh-huh.
So just exposing her, and then once she got aware and how Phoebe is very open to learning and open to wearing the attire and attending, it became much easier.
Good. So then, Venkat, how did you got married?
How I get married? So I mean, we proposed first, and we had essentially like an Indian uh, engagement, right? So my mom set up this puja in Bridgewater temple. So we had a lot of like family, friends of family, all there for that event. Actually, we had our American friends show up to that. They actually thought we got married that day because it was so big, and they were like, "What is all this stuff going on?" Right? I said, "That's just the engagement." Then your
Oh wait,
question was,
Sean, it wasn't at
yeah.
the temple. The engagement party was at Akbar. Remember on
Oh,
Route
sorry,
1?
Akbar. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The puja was at the Bridgewater. Yeah,
Yeah.
the actual marriage was at the Bridgewater. Yeah. So then a year later we got married. So then in that marriage we had two ceremonies. One was the traditional, the Indian ceremony, and then we had the American ceremony, which Phoebe had incorporated some Indian elements into that ceremony as well. So we had, her mom, her grandmother, her aunt wore traditional Chinese attire, and then my family wore, saris, on their side, and then they also had drummers and musicians from both cultures,
I see.
operating there too.
I see. And Phoebe, did you invited any of your church priest or something, or any blessings from the church?
Yeah, the reverend, the father who did our American ceremony, I specifically wanted someone who was who would work with any denomination. So he was very open to it. It was great. He actually hung out with us after and stayed at the reception, bought his girlfriend. So, that's how we are. Like if you look at any pictures of our wedding, it seems like United Nations because you get all kinds of people from all different backgrounds, religions, races, income level, everything. Like that's how
Yeah.
we are. It's not anything we have to think too hard about because I think both of us, even though on the surface we seem different, I think that's something we share as a thread is that we're always around different kinds of people. It's purposeful, right? I think that to live like a really rich life, you can't only talk to and be around people that think exactly like you, right? And that's important to us.
Yeah, no, it's important. See, I have read Bible. I talk to many people. If you read it some way, Bible will tell that no idol worshipping in so many different ways and all that. Now, some people interpret that whatever Hindus are doing, they are polytheists, idol worshippers, heathen, whatever. I mean, those stories going on. So, any of those teachings you had it, or from very beginning you just never were taught about limiting to Christianity to only certain teachings of the Bible?
Yeah, I guess I was lucky. I had always heard about those kinds of very strict, dogmatic ways to be Christian,
Mhm.
but I never was directly exposed, meaning I never had any religious figures or role models in my life that told me, "Oh, don't like these people because they're like this." It was always we're part of the community. This is what we worship. Many other people worship differently in terms of who and how they worship, but they are all children of some kind of God,
Yeah, correct.
right? And
Oh, I
that's
do.
what stuck with me. So I think in that way, I'm different And also, even if today, if someone told me that, I would just say, well, that's your belief, but that's not mine, because I just think we don't need more ways to divide one another. Humankind is already becoming so divided. We need more people that can bring people together.
No, it's that's very true. I mean, if you both, I'm glad you both had the same mindset, so there is a less reason for conflict. Now, Venkat, you know that you may have heard that many people, when Hindus carry the beliefs that the Christians, they will convert you. Have you heard those expressions that, oh, they will convert you? Be careful.
I mean, yeah, from like, distant friend, family friends, right? Because again, it's just the exposure, right? They don't have the exposure. So they grew up in India, right? So they don't know they haven't been exposed. So when they come to America, they have a different idea. And then when they have kids, like, so I grew up here. So, I'm doing, me and Phoebe had done a lot of things our parents never did before. So they can't guide us in certain things, right? They can guide us from certain things, but other things they're just not able to do that. So we had to learn on our own. And I think where we grew up really influenced that we are open to different types of people in general, of all walks, right? And so, we would eat different kinds of food. We would go to different kind of functions, right? So we would get exposed to, we have friends that are Jewish, so we would go to Jewish ceremonies. So like we had this different exposure that I would say not many probably have had.
Listening to both of you, I can see that both are proud of your own faith, value it, but you're not dogmatic. You're not stuck on that thing, and you're open to respect others and all that. I mean, that's just so beautiful. You can see the title of my book. It says share and respect with equality.
Yeah.
So that's my message. I mean, you want to be happy for some next 60, 80 years together. Then if you could share each other's faith, beliefs, holidays, respect each other's for whatever. Okay, Phoebe, you want to do these things? Okay, do it. No problem. And with equality, I always say that because some other party, because you are open-minded, doesn't mean you take the crap from other side. And always expect that equality. Is the other party willing to, is Sean is okay coming to my church because he took you to Hindu temple? And he says, no, I cannot enter your church because oh no, that's not equality. So no, I'm glad. See, I don't see you both are from Bay Area, so open-minded. You don't have this dogmatic thinking to begin with. So whatever I'm telling you, it's irrelevant. But there are many people. There are many people today in America, even including Bay Area. When they are in college, they go rah, wonderful. But as soon as the marriage comes and the parents start pressuring them, and these church and imams and pandits, they start pressuring them, they turn around, right? So how is the marriage life going? Religious focus. I mean, so far, how is it going?
I could take this one. I mean, I think that, and Sean, correct me if I'm mistaken, but I actually am really involved in many cultural activities, especially around Indian culture, Indian, pujas and things like that, even without Sean, right? Like,
Oh, wow.
I'm part of a local, I'm part of many local clubs and activities, of which are led by Indian friends of ours. And I go and support if there's a fundraiser, like this Saturday, we're going to like a Desi comedy show so that we can celebrate Navaratri with everybody. And that's something like I want to do. It's not because I feel pressure to do it or, someone's telling me I need to. It's because I think that's important. Also, our son is a teen, so he's really not into any of the stuff that we're into. He's into his teen life. But I think that he does see what goes on. He does know, like when I wear a bindi and wear, sari, he's like, oh, why are you dressed like that? And I'll tell him why, like to respect the people at the event I'm going to, right? And he may not be rushing to go to that and wear Indian outfit, but over time, it will absorb, and I think that's more important than making sure our son is Christian or Hindu and he has to follow every single thing. It's more about exposing so that he can respect both and others, right? It's not just pick Hindu or Christianity, but like I've been to Muslim temples, Jewish temples, you know, it's important. And the thing that the takeaway, like I said before, is many more similarities than there are differences, right?
No, no, I think it's great. So when you wear bindi and go to mandir and all that, so you don't feel you are any less Christian. You are whatever you are, but you
No, yeah,
think to it.
yeah, I don't feel any less so. And if anything, people appreciate that you're trying to embrace and show respect, right? And, you know, I think it's also because of the churches I've gone to, they're not into dividing.
Mhm.
They want to welcome people. They want to work together. For example, the reverend at my current church, he's into a lot of things. It's not just about reading the Bible and preaching to us. He does very little of that, right? He does that, but then he talks about how you relate this to your life, how you relate this to serving others, right? This they're into, you know, bringing people along for the ride, seeing if they could do things like impacting, you know, issues in the world, impacting how they can help with housing, right? Because if you
Right.
think about it, housing is not something separate. It's not political. It's part of how people live and thrive. And if they don't have that, you know, how can they even think about worshiping? So I really love that it's kind of intermingled together. I can imagine there's some people who think, no, you know, you should go to church, you should just read the Bible, and that's it. I feel sorry for them because I feel like, wow, I really get to be a 360 person because my church helps me be a better person. You know, it's not because of church I'm a good person, but they help, you know, guide me.
So same way, Venkat, you feel very comfortable when you are in church or any Phoebe's activity or Chinese activities?
Yeah, again, it's all about the people that are there. They make it very welcoming, right?
Yeah.
And they're not forcing anything, right? They're just exposing, right? And you can ask questions. It's like a dialogue. You can ask things about why this, why that, and it's basically trying to you learn as much as possible, right? And I think that's what's the good thing is many of the religions they're the similar strands throughout. It's just how you practice, right? It's very different,
Yep.
but the themes are the same, right? And so that's why you can get along with many of the different kinds of people.
You know, Sean, that's your analysis that they are different, but they are still same. There are many people, like Phoebe said, they are they are stuck on their own way. That my way is the right way. Others are, yeah. So that's where the problem comes. But since you both are aligned,
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, we feel it from our family, but for me, more on the other side, like extended family, right? Because again, I think it's more about exposure. And then in my family, we have a lot of older folks, you know, like my
mhm,
grandparents, great uncle. So they only know South Indian, this, that. They don't know anything, right? So not that they're not exposed to it, right? So then when they met Phoebe and they met her family, like they're like, oh, okay, this is probably the first Chinese couple I've ever met, right? So like once they get exposed, they feel like, oh, it's very similar, right? But they just didn't know,
yeah,
and
correct.
so we're part of helping. You know, just like we get exposed in certain ways, we are also exposing others in different ways, right? Our relationship, how we operate, how we parent our son is different than other people, right? But we show them there's different ways to do it as long as at the end of the day, you know, you're working together and you're both happy.
So you can see that this interfaith marriage could be making different communities, different cultural people unite and learn from each other and make them more tolerant,
Yeah.
potentially. But unfortunately, there are many interfaith couples, like I mentioned or covered in the book. Uh, they are going through really difficult time. So, Phoebe, what kind of message you want to give it to, let's say, somebody who is just start dating Hindu, Christian, or any interfaith? What kind of message you will say that be mindful of these things and know this or that thing? What message you will tell them to be happy married or maybe
Yeah.
walk out of this relationship?
I would say, number one, you never lose sight of your core values,
Mm,
right? Your core values are within you.
mm,
Whether you go to a church or temple or don't practice at all. The values are there. People who do practice regularly some kind of faith, it's because they're trying to enhance certain values that way. So I would say, like, be open-minded. And maybe it's easy for me to say, because given our background that we've been telling you about, we've also been encouraged to be open-minded. So I understand for some people, open-minded may sound like an empty phrase because they are raised in a very dogmatic way. But I also implore people, especially when you're an adult, this is your only one life, right? Actually, if you're Buddhist, it's not your only one life, but it's your only one life for us. I don't want to spend the majority of it fighting for something where we're almost, that phrase, vehement agreement. It's like when people fight over, like, oh, is our son going to be this or that? Well, our son's going to be happy and healthy and living his life. That's number one.
Yeah.
Whether he chooses, okay, I'm going to be Hindu for sure, I'm going to be Christian for sure, I want to be both, I want to be neither. That is almost besides the point, because if he's not happy, healthy, well-adjusted, mentally well-adjusted, we have a lot more bigger problems to solve than whether he picks up a Bible or goes to a puja, right? So I think it's like keeping the bigger picture in mind is very important, that it's the order of operations. What's the most important thing to focus on? Is those values, is taking care of yourselves and your families and your friends.
Very true. And Venkat, what kind of message you will give it to maybe other Desi youths? They may not have that much exposure, open exposure like you. I mean, some may have conservative, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. I think I understand the fear, I would say, or because if you've grown up one way, that's all you know. And so if you're not exposed, and then it also, not only the exposure, might be the right people exposing you too, right? For me, I had close friends who I had common bonds in other areas of our life, that this was a natural transition to be exposed. Like, oh, we play sports, but also you're Jewish. Oh, okay. Like, what does that mean? Like, I was learning more about them because I liked them as a person.
Yeah.
Other things. And so it made it easier for me, right? So, and they never pushed anything on me. It was more me asking them versus them actually telling me anything, So even exposing yourself to other things doesn't mean you convert, I think that's a misnomer too, is you're just exposed, you're learning. You actually can take the things from another religion and come back and say, oh, I see it's very similar to this, which we talk about a lot, is there's a lot of similarities in certain things. It's just how it happens, or the occasions or whatnot that it goes on in, but very similar in a lot of things. We talk about that with the food, right? Chinese Indian food is very similar, rice based, but everything around it is very similar, right? So it's very common to do that.
Yeah, these communities sometimes carry so much stereotype about others, or don't know about it. For example, Phoebe, probably most Hindus don't know that there are 36,000 denominations in Christianity. They think all Christians are same. And it's the same for probably many locals. They think that all Hindus are same, but like you expressed, that South Indians have different cultures versus North versus East and West, and somebody from Hindu from Taiwan, maybe, Thailand may be different. Yeah, so there is so much, and interfaith marriages could help remove those stereotyping. So
we actually went to Bali, Indonesia for our honeymoon.
Oh, wow.
And it was so interesting because Indonesia is predominantly Muslim, right? But Bali is Hindu predominantly. But the way they celebrate is vastly different than any other Hindu ceremonies I had been exposed to. They have different kind of clothing that they wear with certain patterns. Also, they're Hindu, but they eat pork. So I was like, wow, this is really different, right? And I'm like, it's not wrong, it's just different. I didn't know about that. So there's so much I don't know, right? And again, like, not everyone can travel. But I think that if you get, now we don't have excuse. We have Google, we have all these AI tools, we have YouTube, Reddit. You can expose yourself. I think it's making sure that you are around people that will help you grow versus people that are trying to close your aperture.
No, I think that sounds great. Now, Phoebe, just in closing, I read it that Phoebe Shin Venkat for Foster City Council 2024. I know you are.
Yeah.
You want to tell me about
Sure.
Why you are standing for city council position?
Yeah, I'm standing for city council, and it's interesting, Dilip. It is related, right? Because I want to bring more representation to our city council, right? I know I'm qualified. I know I'm intelligent. I have certain traits like being able to bring people together, being able to analyze and make strategic decisions. That's all great. But I think what's really important is in Foster City and as in many cities, it's so diverse. So there's like, if you add up all the Asians together in Foster City, it's over 50%. Chinese is 25%. Indian, I think, is closer to 20% now. But we don't have the representation consistently that we need on the city council of 5 people. The only person who is non-white on that council currently is a Palestinian gentleman, and he will be terming out. He will not be able to run again.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's important to me to not only do the work of the city, that's number one, but while I'm doing that work to represent as an East Asian woman, married in, to Indian man, our child is biracial. There's a lot of people that are in similar footsteps as us. And it doesn't mean I'm going to have all the right answers, but it means that I can help represent, like you mentioned in the other video with the judge not understanding certain cultures and celebrations and faiths. I want to make sure that our city is equipped for the future, and we can't be if we don't have that representation. So that's why I stepped up to run for city council in Foster City.
Phoebe, I'm convinced. I live in Burlingame, California. If I was there, I would have given my vote because
That's
I would like
wonderful.
to. I like to see officials be very open-minded, all-inclusive, especially in the Bay Area. We are all so much mix of people. So I wish you
Yeah.
really best for the upcoming election. Hopefully, you'll have a good results, good message for us in November.
Thank you so much, Dilip.
Yeah. So, Sean, in closing, any additional information you want to give it? We did not cover.
No, I think you covered it really well. And I'm still learning too. Like I was exposed as a kid to many things, and then when you go to college, you don't do the same things every day with your parents, right? So I'm learning new things too. Oh yeah, I remember this from when I was a kid, right? So as I go to different functions, actually, when Phoebe takes me to a function with her friend, I'm like, oh yeah, I did this as a kid. I remember we actually went to a friend's place and did Golu, right? They had those statues there. So we went, I was like, oh yeah, my mom used to do this as a kid. So like it's reminding me of certain things. And at that time when I was a kid, I didn't understand why people were selling. You don't understand at the kid, you're like, oh, I'm dragged to this thing. But when you go as an adult, you see that it's a place for people to come together and unite around something and, celebrate, happiness or peace or whatnot. And you get to learn about new people and meet new people who are coming to these functions,
Yeah. Nope. I think it's a great. You both have really given a great message, and I think there is a lot more. Many people have to learn from you. Maybe they will reach out to you for guidance if they are in love relationship. And we can close it. And I definitely wish Phoebe good luck. I mean, it's coming up soon.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, Dilip.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.